All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends, where truth matters. Excited to be with you as always, and I mean it when I say it. I want you to know that, guys. So, got an interesting topic, very, very interesting. And again, I am not surprised at the statement by the new Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. By the way, they already naming him Narco Rubio. So, jokingly, that is. I am not surprised at all. The guy is a hawkish, so it's gonna be basically meet the new boss like the old boss, and this what tells you a lot about American foreign policy, if there is one to begin with. So this is why I put on the title for this video, China is a threat, because this is what Marco Rubio now is going to be pushing, which means what? The narrative that's going to be coming in. And this is why I decided to do this. I had to do a lot of reading last night just to catch up on everything from overseas. And this is why I wanted to do this analysis for you. And speaking of analysis, before I move any further, the analysis you are hearing on this platform, guys, you are not going to hear it anywhere else. So I'm being straightforward about it. So if you are learning and enjoying these free episodes, this analysis that is, so I would greatly appreciate if you can subscribe. And this way, we get to share this knowledge with people from around the world so they have a chance, like you, to hear the truth. So I will greatly appreciate and thank you for your support. So all right, let me first say hi to our wonderful community. I had to put someone in a timeout because of what was written, and I will not tolerate this nonsense. So, Willie Holman, good to see you. Hanging G, good to see you. And a good point. Let me share this with you guys. Who authorized Secretary Narco Rubio to warn China? Did Secretary Rubio authorize himself? It looks like it. Because here is one thing, quickly, guys, for you to understand how American politics operate. State Department has its own agenda. Department of Defense has its own agenda. CIA has its own. NSA has its own. Treasury has its own. There is no cohesiveness. So it's chaotic inside the government. So just wanted to let you know. So UTU, Z, super. Good to see you. Alexander Rose. Good. Alexi Rose, good to see you. Thunderbolt, as always. Tom Sawyer, yeah, Wires, good to see you. Lisa Lewis, hello to you as well. Brianna Olivia, good to see you. Cosmic, Farid Amal, good to see you from Quebec. So I take it, Farid, you speak French in Quebec. So Li Yang, good to see you. Marcian Dorcier, Kane Z, good to see you. Alan Seam, good to see you. Truth Seeker, and Zhao Yun, good to see you as always. Timeline Dunkley, as always. And Movie Channel, good to see you. All right, guys, let's get in because I got a lot to cover because there are about 3 or 4 angles I have to approach to put things in perspective for you so you'll have a better understanding. So, but before that, let me also say something about some housekeeping stuff. Be on the lookout for my interview, which I finalized with Professor Anna Malindog. That's going to be on Friday at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, which will be 10 a.m. Manila time and Beijing time. So be on the lookout for that one. And the second one, it has to do with the Asia trip. And I don't want to miss this opportunity by saying thank you to yeah, right. Let me share it with you guys here. Right here, I want to say thank you to already some people have donated in support of the Asia trip 2.0. That is, so they bought me tea on that, and I'm gonna give a shout out at the end of this channel of this video here. So if you are interested in supporting the trip to Asia, I will be grateful to you for that. So all right, let's get into our topic here, and we're gonna talk about questions first of all. Here are the questions here, guys. What's behind the Rubio statements? Yeah, because this, again, nothing happens in a vacuum, like I always say. Second question is, why China? Why not Russia? Why not some other country? Yeah, I know China matters. on global, but has nothing to do. It has to do with something else. And the third question is the timing of it. Really, the timing, because if you know that Rubio was confirmed by the Senate only a few hours prior to the inauguration. This is usually, that is not the norm. Usually till the president gets in, then the nominees will go. I know the nominee for the defense department is still going through. He's not approved yet. They're still waiting to see. But I found it very, very unusual. But in any event, we're going to move on into this analysis. Well, of course, here is the shocking thing. Already, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, you give now the title, because that just, to me, it doesn't matter, but I still have to show the proper title, because that's just how it works. So he already met with his counterparts. Well, who are his counterparts? Take a look, guys. Okay, I don't know why it's not showing up here. I had the picture here, and let me get it for you, because you need to see this picture. It'll make more sense to you once you see it. Okay, quad JPEG. Okay, right there. Sorry, guys, I'm gonna have to upload this quickly, and because I need to share it with you, and you need to see this one here. All right, here's quad JPEG. Okay, there we go. Let's see this one. I'm gonna share it with you guys. There we go. Finally. Thanks for your patience. So the idea that he received his counterpart, well, it's not received because I don't know where they were attending the inauguration or whatever. It doesn't matter. So the counterparts from Japan, India, and Australia. So, and those are part of course, of the Quad. You all know about the Quad security dialogue, right? No. And this is where the pledge, I didn't say he, I say they, because this statement, by the way, guys, the statement that was released is a joint statement, which means what in a diplomatic language? That the other party consent to its content. And here is why I didn't say he, but they pledge to confront the rise of China. Yeah, we're talking about India, we're talking about Japan, and we're talking about Australia, of course. What they all have in common, like you see on my video title, subservience. Simple as that. And this is why I need you to understand, and I'm going to get into the details of all this, but in a joint statement, this is the key that you need to understand. So all of them stressed this so-called commitment to working to make the Asia-Pacific region, listen carefully, in quote, free and open, expressing their support for a region that supports and defends the rule of law, democratic values, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the defense of those values, end of quote. So why is this? This is nothing new, guys. And I am not here to repeat this stuff because you already know it. Otherwise, we're just wasting time here. What you need to understand from this is that this gives you a glimpse into what kind of foreign policy, if we can even consider it a foreign policy, is going to be moving forward. Because this one, these statements, these decisions, this call was not because of Trump. It was because of Rubio and the State Department independently from Trump. That's one. Second thing, it highlights to you how can you now expect the Chinese, for example, foreign minister, Mr. Wang Yi, or the likes of Mr. Lavrov, two of a very statesmen, because they've been around long enough to understand diplomacy and so forth. How do you foresee the conversation with Marco Rubio is going to go? It's not a laughing matter, but it just shows you, because we already seeing the hint as to what lies ahead. I am not surprised. I've been arguing for the last few months where the next conflict is going to be. I was looking over the horizon. And if you think that I went to China just for the sake of visiting China or Taiwan, you are mistaken, because I also wanted to find out what is the mood regarding what's coming down the pipe. Of course, you talk to people who have an understanding of geopolitics. Average person is not going to be paying attention to this stuff. And when I was in Taiwan, in Taipei, I was made aware that moment, those days that I spent 4 days in Taipei, I was made aware of the movements of the US naval assets. And of course, within the government, not the government, in Taipei, within the local government or state, whatever you want to call it. Because to me, and you know where I stand, just for the record, Taiwan is a renegade state. It's not a sovereign state. Simple as that. So back then it became clear to me where things are going. And now, with these statements by Rubio, it just kind of confirmed to me where things are headed. And when you hear, for example, in these joint statements, once again, and I'm going to quote, "We strongly oppose any unilateral measures that seek to change the status quo by force or coercion," end of quote. So what are we talking about here? Because they didn't have the gut to say it straightforward. All this conversation, read between the lines, aims at China. No more, no less. Let's be honest, straightforward about it. But they don't have the gut to say it because, first of all, the three others, Japan, Australia, and India, have been forced to sign into this joint statement. So when you think about India, it's going to be used, given that Mr. Trump, President Trump, might end up visiting India. Do you think because he cares for India? No. Mr. Trump likes that kind of, what do you call it, celebrity approach, and people just, it's one of those things. And of course, it works out to the benefit of Modi. Modi, who is not a qualified PM, who is a nationalist, just putting the agenda of, instead of taking care of the Indian people, the Indian infrastructure for the country, just dragging the country, whatever. So he's going to be doing what we dictate to him. If he doesn't like it, we will sanction him, like what we did when he decided to challenge the US by importing oil from Iran. We imposed sanctions, he reversed course. Simple as that. So the same thing applied to Japan, the same thing applied to Australia. So which two countries? And of course, we don't forget about South Korea, who's the president is in jail now. I think he's been arrested. And there is another dimension to that. I might address it in this video. I might not. We'll see how things go. So, and here is the thing. Those four ministers or secretaries of state, whatever you want to call them. Let me get the picture here quickly for you to see. So they already decided, they decided to now uphold the summit, the quadrilateral summit, which was already scheduled. So, and where it is going to be, it's going to be in India. This is why the possibility, that's why India wanted to get on with this, because India knows full well that doing this, they know what they're doing. Modi has to keep that narrative alive that China is bad, that all those border issues, those are created by us, but are serving the narrative for India, for Modi, that is. So I mean, I to whomever is from India watching this, and I don't mean disrespect to your country, I respect all countries, but I'm going to ask you a question. You, the person from India, if you happen to be watching, tell me what has been achieved in India for the last 10, 12 years since Modi came to power. So straightforward. So the other thing we need to consider about, which after I read an article by Colin Clark, This is from Global Naval Warfare, and I'm gonna share the link with you later on. I wanted to show you this one here. This has to do with the AUKUS deal, the submarines. You all remember this, right? Well, guess what? Already a team from the State Department left last week to Australia, paved the conversation and the way for what lies ahead. Well, what lies ahead is very troubling for Australia. Why? Because the Australian Defence Procurement Minister just announced, according to the article, which, by the way, was published yesterday, just read the stuff last night, announced that now they're going to add another 262 million Australian dollars, the equivalency of 163 million US dollars. Why? To help the country's companies, meaning Australia's companies. And so I ain't going to be helping the Australian companies. It's going to be helping the American defense contractors. You know, the Albanese government, the idiot, it's pathetic for what it's doing, must not, as a matter of fact, they are just arguing inside Australia. And this is one of the article, one of the statements from within the article, when Elizabeth Backman, she's a senior fellow at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, she kind of argued that the Albanese government must not continue to treat the Australian public as a bystanders in our own security dialogue and repackaging or dusting off old announcements in borderline offensive, end of quote. This is what Elizabeth Buchanan stated. So basically what it is that Aussies are fed up with this amount of money that's going to be spent on the submarines that is not going to be to the benefit of Australia anyway. So this is where the big concern moving forward. And this where you're going to now to have to think about, because already China is criticizing this security dialogue, because China understands what is the purpose of this security dialogue between those four countries, the United States, Japan, India, and Australia. You know, and all the aim at what? They aimed at one objective and one objective only. And that objective is to contain China, which they're going to fail. Even the US itself will not be able to contain. It's too late for that. Maybe the US could have done it some 30 years ago, maybe 25 years ago max, but it's too late now. Look where China is. I just had a chance this morning to take a listen into a conversation that was hosted by it's by the China and the World Forum, and this was about China in Latin America. So makes you just wonder why all of a sudden we are threatening Panama Canal, of taking over Panama Canal rather. It's because it has to do with the presence of China in Latin America. We don't like it. The same argument I will make about Marco Rubio, making this argument that China is a threat. It is a threat because we are finding out we are falling behind and we are having a hard time catching up to China. That is what the truth is all about. I mean, look at just that incident, simple as TikTok. Yeah. All of a sudden you're having now most Americans wanted to know more about China, and this kind of Chinese apps paving the way for that open communication, not through the government, but directly. And of course, our government didn't like that. So, like I always say, the whole conversation about TikTok wasn't about this privacy or national security. No. It was about preventing the Americans from knowing the truth, because if Americans found out where China is when it comes down to infrastructure, economy, and so forth, we're going to be looking at ourselves and said, what the heck is our government doing? And do I need to mention to you guys that China just disclosed a $1 trillion surplus for 2024? Did we have any surplus here? Since when was last time we had a surplus? To my knowledge, the last time we had a surplus was during Bill Clinton back in the 90s. So, and this is where I am seeing, and again, I am not surprised. I'll do the topics for you that you guys can get ahead in understanding. I've been seeing the trends for the last few months, and I was convinced back then, as I am still today, that once the dust settles on Ukraine, you're going to be looking at Asia. Because we do not want, when I say we, you know what I'm referring to. We do not want that region to prosper. This is why you're going to be seeing the focus is going to be regarding the South China Sea. Why is this important? Because look at the map here and look at all those countries. What they all share in common is the economic developments. They want security, they want peace, and they want economic prosperity. Except for Philippines, that is now, we all know where it's going, and that's one of the things I am going to be addressing with Professor Anna Mountain on Friday, because it turns out to be that the budget, the Philippines, for my Filipino viewers, shame on the government that didn't disclose to the Filipino people what was going on in that budget of 2025, and corruption has been exposed in that budget. It's no different than what we do, except we do it in a different setting. What a shame. What a shame that the government is supposed to work for the people, not the other way around. So when you think about Marco Rubio's statements, you have to think about the region right here. You have to look at for Vietnam, where it is economically, Laos, where it is economically, Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia, Indonesia. You get the idea, especially when you think about Thailand and Indonesia, for Indonesia being already a full member of BRICS, and Thailand is going to join. Vietnam is moving forward. Cambodia is moving forward. And like I said, what did China did for those countries? This is what China did for those countries. Building a high speed that facilitates the movement that we have in our country. And what you're going to be doing is you want to create tensions to prevent any more development. This is, again, why I feel comfortable saying that the statement by the new Secretary of State is an indication as to what lies ahead. Because that's the priorities, apparently. What the priorities of this hawk, of this neocon, that's what you need to know. You need to know two other things. The other two is where the funding for his campaign has been coming from, okay? And which special interest group he is representing right now. He's not representing the American people, despite what you hear. And when they say about the rule of law, we support the rule of law and defend the rule of law. Well, if I am to counter-argue that, I would say, well, if we are to do this, how come we are threatening military use to take over Greenland or take over Panama Canal? So what happened to that rule of law? So, I mean, come on. It's hypocrisy. It's like hypocrisy of the highest order. Territorial integrity, that's what we advocate. That's what he was advocating for. So what is all that? And it just shows you where Marco Rubio's priorities are. So, do I consider him very savvy in geopolitics? No. Neocons never understood how when it comes down to international relations, how these relations ought to be conducted when it comes down to dealing with other countries, because you have to consider also their own perspective, their own strategic interest, their own security, and so forth, like we do for ours. And this is where that having an in-depth understanding of what geopolitics is all about paves the way for it. Marco Rubio, if you go back on a record, and there's a record out there, because he served on the Foreign Relations Committee and so forth, was always advocating for wars against Iran, for wars against North Korea, for wars against the Russians, or the Russians are being the bad, and of course China There are statements on the record right there from way back that he was always advocating against China. Why? It's because China has developed and China is moving on. This is where so here is when Rubio said, and I quote here, he said that my country will prioritize its national interest in every decision related to foreign policy. So this is what he said. And it's a quote. Everything we do. No, everything you do. You don't speak for me. Everything you do must be justified by answering one of the three questions. Does it make us stronger, safer, or more prosperous? End of quote. Well, if I am to break this down, does it make us stronger? Stronger in what way? If you are to say we are strong militarily, we're just going to go with that argument, guys. If we are to say just we are strong militarily, how come we couldn't even defeat the Houthis? So what's stronger? You can understand the vagueness of the wording. He's a shrewd guy. Don't get me wrong. He's a lawyer by trade. So lawyers, no offense to lawyers, but he tends to understand the impact of wording. So when you leave the term like this in the open, stronger, an average Joe, how is going to understand that? This is one thing that I do in this channel. Break it down in the simple terms that you and I makes perfect sense. So when he said stronger, as I said, to counter argue that, if it is stronger, we're going to think about what the Houthis are doing in the Red Sea, and we couldn't lift that blockade. So safer from whom? And safer for what? If we are to say about safer again, are we even safe on our own border? If you only know, guys, what's been going on. Are we even safe from our own government? So, and the third one, more prosperous. Prosperous in what way? When you have for example, if you go back into the economic data in America, you're going to notice that prices have been increasing by 3% for the last few months. Every month. Inflation is high and the massive debt. So where is this strength, safety, and prosperity? Did we post any surplus like what China did for $1 trillion? So you look at the people, I live here, I go out, I go to a grocery store, I buy my own stuff, and I kind of watch where prices are in comparison to a year before, in comparison to 2 years before. And things are not getting in good conditions here for average Americans. Unfortunately, average Americans does not understand the basics. So when you hear statements from this new Secretary of State, that just doesn't make any sense. So, and here is again another quote about the goal of the U.S. foreign policy. He said, and I quote, the primary goal of the U.S. foreign policy is to promote peace. Of course, peace through strength, and peace always without abandoning our values. End of quote. What the heck is this guy talking about? When you talk about peace and you go and foment tensions, what peace are we talking about? Like I always give the example of the Ukraine saga could not have happened if we didn't pressure the comedian and weak Zelensky to not accept the peace proposal that was proposed 2 years ago. All of what happened now would not have happened. But of course, neocons didn't want that. And Marco Rubio happened to be one of those. So when we talk about peace, and now you are looking at this upcoming summit in India, because it makes me just wonder. And I've argued, there is one video out there, guys. I talked about India when they decide to sign an agreement with the US to build a naval yard or something like that. And I forgot exactly what it was. So it makes you just wonder. India is going to end up holding the end of the stick, is already holding the end of the stick. But there is another dimension that is crossing my mind, and funny, crossed my mind this morning. This has nothing to do with foreign policy. This has to do with ensuring that as BRICS grows, you will have some elements inside that entity that can hinder or undermine the policies of BRICS. India is one of those. And I say it straightforward. I don't shy away from this because that's what I believe in and that's what it is. So this quadrilateral summits and all, it's nothing but just pushing the narrative forward that we need to push these countries to the front, confronting China. That is where the difference. I need you to understand what lies ahead, guys, especially for my viewers in the region. So, and when again, Rubio says that, the United States seek to prevent and avoid conflict by saying, and I quote, but never at the expense of our national security, nor at the expense of our national interest, nor at the expense of our fundamental values as a nation and as a people. End of quote. What a bunch of baloney. It's nonsense. This is a bravado, is to raise emotions. So the average people here in the US, when they hear this kind of wording, if they happen to watch TV, whatever, they're like, wow, we got to know Secretary of State is going to push for our interests. What interest when you couldn't even take care of your own house? Like I always say, foreign policy, where does it start? It's not in some far land. It starts at home by having your house in order. So look at just, for example, if you look at just, I'm going to just give you an example about salaries, for example. Just go back and look at the elites in America, how much their wealth has quadruple, tenfold, or whatever. You get the idea. But the average salary remained the same. I remember Elon Musk back in 2013 had about $25 billion or so. Now his wealth is about 249 billion. More power to you. Zuckerberg and all those, I don't trust them anyway. And it won't matter. What I care about is the average citizen here. But the average citizen salary has not changed. So when Marco Rubio states about the policy and defense for people, whatever, no, it's nonsense. It's nonsense. So, and this is one of the things I do, guys, regarding my speaking engagements. So when I go and do private speakings, this is what I talk about. I remember my last talk I did at the World Affairs Council in Austin, and I had to talk about these changes of the geopolitical landscape in West Asia and what does it mean for us moving forward, for us as a nation, but also for the global economy. So the same conversations that I do, for example, that I did at Fort Hood, which is a military base. So because in addition to hosting my channels here, the other one as well, so I also deliver these talks to sort of people who will be very, very interested in learning about this specific domains, because there is a lot of stuff involved. A lot. You're talking about investors, you're talking about entrepreneurs, and you're talking about average citizens who wants to educate him or herself about the geopolitical aspect, but as it ties to his or her finances. Because the global shift and the market trends, don't ever think that they will not impact you directly, no matter how you look at it. So, and this is why I do this kind of speaking events, whether at conferences or corporate events. So my goal has always and I will always remain to equip you, entrepreneur, investor, intelligence analyst, diplomat, general, military officer, doesn't matter, to equip you with the practical strategies, and that's for one aim and one aim only, is to thrive given the geopolitical uncertainties. So this is one of the things. That's why I asked you guys, first of all, to subscribe to the channel, because A lot of people around the world needs to hear the truth, needs to hear what's going on. This way they'll have a better understanding. So moving on in my analysis, then there is another factor, and the other factor has to do with now President Trump. What just happened with Trump? This is an old picture between President Xi and President Trump. No, but that's not the one I'm talking about. The one I'm talking about is this one right here, an old picture from 2018. This is during the NATO summit. I covered that in some of my writings, and I published it on, I think at that time, it was a Huffington Post when it used to be. So, and I also addressed it in my Russia book. What's this? Why is this important to understand? It is important to understand because Mr. Trump just threatened sanctions on Russia if it refuses to negotiate on Ukraine. We already got a problem with this. And what is the problem? Is the condition if. You don't do that with the sovereign states. You don't dictate the term. Otherwise, it becomes political bullying. That's what it amounts to. And Russia is not a country to bully. Russia is not Japan. Russia is not Philippines. Russia is not Germany. Russia is not Australia. Okay? Russia is not Britain. Russia is not France or Italy or Canada. So, very, very problematic because this is yesterday. He threatened yesterday to impose new sanctions on Russia if the Russian President Vladimir Putin refuses to negotiate with Ukraine to reach a deal to end the war. Oh, no, it doesn't work that way. Keep dreaming, man. Keep dreaming. So, because that just gives you an idea how the thinking of now this current administration, when it comes down to foreign affairs, geopolitics, international relations, and what have you. This is not a way of how to conduct business, diplomatically speaking. You can do that with a country like India. Because what will Modi say or do? What can he say or do? Nothing. You can do that with Australia. You can do that with Japan, South Korea, Philippines. You get the idea. Germany. But you can't do that with Russia. And I'm providing the facts here. Simple as that. And what's problematic also, guys, with this is that the Trump also trying to press on with his tactics with the Chinese President Xi. Now, Mr. Trump, if any of you people listening to this, it doesn't work that way. Let alone with China now and where China is today. That era of bullying for American hegemony is gone. The world has changed. It's not going to work. So, and second thing I will say, and by the way, Mr. Trump was trying to pressure President Xi during the phone call that Trump initiated, not the Chinese. It was Trump that initiated. And I told you in one of the videos way back prior to inauguration, I told you, I think Mr. President Xi is not going to attend because it doesn't make sense. If he does, he sends the wrong message on the global stage. By not attending, he is sending also a far stronger message to the US, but also to the rest of the world. And that is the reason why. And what I was going to say about this one is that if now Trump is pressing President Xi, how come when China proposed a way of solving the Ukraine-Russia, it was rejected? Of course, we had another incompetent government, which, by the way, the last act of the outgoing incompetent president was to pardon his family. Do you guys know? By doing that, he put a target on their backs because now it proved that they were indeed guilty. So why would you pardon if somebody didn't commit a crime? So So and it just our system, and I say it. So it's not in you; it's corrupted to its core. And now with having this idiot, yes, I will use the term. It's just gonna add more fuel to the fire because he's a neocon. And remember the funding, where the funding for his political career came from, still till today. So then you have the likes of countries like India is going to be used into pushing, because India, it's all about nationalism. Modi was all about nationalism. Modi wasn't qualified. And again, no disrespect to Modi, but the qualifications are not there. So, and again, it's the Indian people to decide, not me. That's their country. They can decide whatever they want. So, you know. And all this has to do with really the changes that's taking place on the global stage. And this is what I wanted to put in perspective for you, so you'll have a better understanding as to what lies ahead. Because what lies ahead, especially in that part of the world, Asia, that is, another reason for why I want to go back, and I intend to go back. And again, we already launched the site for that. It's the same websites I had last time for those who wanted to support the trip. And already, as I mentioned, I'm going to give a shout out to the people who already donated for this trip. So, and that is the reason why I wanted to go, because I have a country in mind that also might end up visiting while I'm there. I have 3 objectives to achieve there. I don't discuss yet till I figure out everything, and I will communicate with you because it's our community. Transparency in this community. You all know how it works. You all know how it works, guys. So this is the way I see it moving forwards. So let me say thank you to Van Hog Wong. I'm going to post your stuff here. Thank you very much for your super sticker. Will Japan, India, and Australia do something when Panama Canal is taken? After all, it's located in the Pacific Ocean. No, first of all, Panama Canal is not going to be taken. That's one, because that would be a violation of international law. You can't take a canal that belongs to another sovereign nation. That's like going, for us, we go and take over the Suez Canal. No, it doesn't work that way. The problem with the Panama Canal had to do with, and I kept a picture here. Let me share it with you guys. That had to do with the transit. This is a Singapore a cargo that is going to Singapore and so forth. So it has to do with this one here. U.S. goods, they go through Panama. But the problem with that, it's not about Panama. No, it's about China. Like I asked today during that conference of the China and the World Forum that I attended to. I'm going to post the link for you guys if you ever wanted to watch it. Those are academia. It's the academic scholars that came in and shared their own understanding, and very, very insightful. It was hosted by my dear friend, Dr. Dashan Feng. So very, very, very insightful. I will urge you to listen to it, and I'm going to post the link for you guys. And I asked the question, and the question is this now the statement by Trump has to do with China's expansion in Latin America? Even though one of the author there, Margaret, she argued, rightly so, that even foreign direct investments of China in Latin America has kind of dropped slightly in comparison to what it was before, even with Panama. But it's not about that. It's about the expansion. Because now with you all remember the I forget the name. If anybody in the community knows the name of the port that China just what's the word? Did the opening ceremony in was it Peru? I couldn't remember. If you will be kind and just type that in for the community. Why is this important? Because it cut down the travel distance, the travel time rather, shorten it to almost 2 weeks instead of whatever, 2 months or whatever it was. So let me see in the community. Oh, yeah, Alan Sean, thank you so much for your super sticker. Truly appreciate your continued support. Alan Sean has been with me for a long time. So part of the core of this community, all of you guys, there's no exception. I kind of remember the names that from when I started, that's still there. So thank you, Alamsin. Truly appreciate you, man. Let me see what you guys wrote about the name of that port. And my apologies, I kind of forgot about the name of it. And I know because I read back then about it. I read about the how much is going to cut travel to China. Cut by, oh yes, Wong KC. Thank you so much, Chanke in Peru. This is what's at the heart of it, because we wanted to control Panama, and it's not right for what we are planning and doing. You can't do that, If we are to say, as what this secretary is saying, the respect to rule of law, let me get that quote again, because it's word for word coming out of the horse's mouth. Expressing our support for a region that support and defend the rule of law, democratic values, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the defense of those values, end of quote. That's, to me, it's hypocrisy of the highest order. So the one thing I need you, before I close in here, guys, before I sign out, one thing I need you to understand is what we just discussed is nothing but the tip of the iceberg as far as what lies ahead regarding Asia, regarding China, regarding South China Sea, regarding Philippines, South Korea, Japan, Australia, and the whole geopolitical landscape, or regional, that is, in the region, or the regional security. This is what I need you to understand. So it ain't about our country, the welfare of the people. It is because the concern we have in as China moves up the ladder, soon it will overtake the US economy. So you all heard we're going to be bringing jobs back to America. There is none. I am now, and I'll share this with the community, I am now thinking about my youngest, who's going to be now the age of university. Do I want him to go to American universities? For what? For what? And I'm thinking, I'm going to have to face him with the reality. Are you willing to discover the world? If so, let's head out to Asia. And you get to see with your own eyes and immerse into a culture that's going to define the rest of the world moving forward. So, let alone the cost of this. And I remember, Hang in G, thank you for sharing with me the comments about the cost for education and so forth. Because universities in China do not cost as much as we have. An average here is about $60,000 a year. So you wonder why the students don't move up the ladder. So that's another conversation for another day. Karakulak, you're right. Unemployment, it is getting bad here. The government's not going to disclose. They are not going to disclose the truth. This is why, guys, I need your support. Subscribe if you have not done so. Please share this with other people so they can hear the truth. You are lucky. You are lucky because you're here in this community. You can hear it. How about the person who does not have the opportunity because he or she is not aware of? This is, once again, one of the things that are pushing me to address what's going on in Philippines. As a matter of fact, someone asked me if I would be interested in interviewing the former president of Philippines. Why not? I don't care who can come into, as long as it addresses things objectively for the sake and the welfare of the Filipino people. Well, the same argument I'll make about my own country. And I don't need to invite a politician from Washington because, first of all, they won't come over here. So, but I'm going to be that conduit for you to provide you that truth that you need to be aware of, whether you live in America or not. You need to understand what's going on. So let me see. Wong Hong, I hope I answered your question regarding, I'm going to go over it quickly here. Hope I answered your question. So, yeah, they're not going to be able to do anything because they are under the command of the United States. What we decide goes. What we dictate goes. So don't ever be misled by that. So once again, Adam Sin, thank you so much for your super sticker. Farid Amal from Quebec, thank you so much. Great research, Mr. David. Thank you very much. And you are correct, Farid. It takes me time to put all this stuff together. You know, I was up at 6:30 this morning, guys. 6:45. No, 6:45 to be exact. So, and because you're giving me your time, your support, and I better give you something of value. That's what you're getting in this channel here. And I feel comfortable, and I'm not bragging, you know me. I don't do that kind of stuff. What you hear here, what you learn about here, you are not going to find it elsewhere. Yeah, there are other YouTube channels out there, and you are encouraged to go and listen and reach your own conclusions. So, Mr. Eman, thank you so much. Dr. O, please set up a Silk Road tour with Carl and Dr. Hammond. I will join you on that tour. I would love to do that. You know, I just the funding, and I am being upfront about all this. You know, if I would love to do that, because I mean, being with these two guys, and you all know who Dr. Hammond is, guys. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be bringing him soon. Carl, I'll be seeing him at the end of the month. We do our conversation every month. So that would be, I would love to do that, literally, for the sake of sharing knowledge with you. This is not about tourism for me. My trips to Asia, when I want to go to Asia for tourism, I go on my own dime, because it won't be right of me to do so while you are funding the trip. That is not right. It will not settle well with me. And if somebody thinks I'm bluffing, try me. Now, that's how I operate. You know, it's because to me, your trust is a responsibility. I can't mess around with that. Why do you think I didn't want to run for? Somebody approached me to run for Congress. No, I can't. You know, I can't. I'm a private guy. I like my privacy. I like my life the way it is, and that's how I like it. So before I forget, I need to just, if you allow me, guys, here, please, I need to say thank you to Buy Me Tea. To those who bought me tea already, they are. I just wanted to. Oh, Multi-Tom, thank you so much for buying me tea. This is for the trip for Asia. Charles DG, thank you so much for your generous support for my Asia trip. Someone, I don't know, when I see someone as a name, that's my hint. I don't want to disclose the name, so I hope I'm right. But anyway, for another generous donations in support of the Asia trip. And there is a fourth person, again, someone, for his or her generosity in support of my Asia trip. And this is the link right there, guys, should you decide to support the trip. I think within 2.5 weeks, I'm going to provide the time frame, the complete funding for that, except for the locations. I do not disclose that. You know, you all know why. You know, it's no brainer. And please don't take this personally that I'm not disclosing this. Is because it's because that's just how it works. So okay, what else I need to cover? That's about it, guys. So tomorrow, make sure to join me tomorrow on my other channel. And by the way, we decided to rebrand that channel by naming it Geopolitics and Money. So that is where the focus is going to be. And most of the guests that's going to be coming on that channel, on the other channel, it's going to be from a financial investments, economic, that you need to be aware of and informed about. That's the decision why we decided to. The decision why we haven't been on the other channel for a while. There were a lot of restructuring and so forth. The end of the year and so this one here, it's easier for me when I'm solo here. That's my wheelhouse. I can take it and run with it. Run with it based on research, not on the top of my head. And you all know this. But tomorrow we'll resume our appearance on that channel. And on Friday, remember to join me at 800 hour 0800 for my conversation with Professor Anna Malendog. I look forward to that, and I am very concerned about what's going on in Philippines. I really had high hopes that Marcos Jr. will sort of rebrand the name of his family. Of course, you don't blame the guy for his father. Fairness is important. Be fair. But when the son is doing the same problem, mistake that his father did, if not worse, then that's it. That's it. That is it. So this is why now it became so close to my heart as far as what's going on in Philippines. In addition to having one of my dearest friend, a lifetime friend, he's like a brother to me, John, originally from Philippines. I interacted with Filipino people during my travels around the world. A wonderful human being. They were helpful to me for no reason. Just because I was kind to them, they were kind to me. And hardworking people. And this is why I am willing to interview the former president if he wants to come on this channel, or any other individual in the government, because I will ask questions that matter for the welfare of the Filipino people. So, all right, guys, I hope wish you. Oh, let me see. Hank, I saw your comment here. Mr. Dr. Oualaalou will be a fantastic professor inside. Oh, another thing is yes, teaching in China. It's becoming one of my. I don't know why I have this positive feeling about it, but again, I just to guys let you know, I did send about 12 emails to 12 universities. I only heard from one, and I can understand sometimes things goes into junk mail. It's from a foreigner that could think as a spam, whatever. So I am hoping my next time in China, I will make it a priority to go physically. Of course, I have to set it up to on campus and meet with some individuals and do that. Ramples 01. Dr. O, how is Elizabeth? She's doing good. It's just busy, married life and so forth. But you'll be able to see her tomorrow. So thank you for asking. So and yes, those universities are, and there are some, they are really well versed into international affairs, because that's all I can teach. I can't teach anything else, and I won't want to anyway. That's not my area. I teach what I feel confident about, what I can share the knowledge with, and help the next generation of leaders grasp and understand everything else. So yeah, I can't do technical or scientific universities. I won't be a good fit for that. So we're hoping for that. So anyway, guys, I wish you a good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever part of the world you're in. And once again, thank you so much for your support, your kindness. And I appreciate you for keeping the conversational civil in our community in this chat room here. Once again, I look forward to seeing you on Friday. As always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.